What is up, GOAT World? Arts and Crofts here, once again bringing you some GOAT Format World League Season 6 playoff coverage. If you've been watching this series so far, we just finished up the two wild card rounds, determining who's going to fill out the last two spots of the quarterfinal. We just watched defending champions R.I.C.O act, keep their hopes of the two-peat alive by defeating 10 seed Carbonara. And before that, we saw the all-Greek team Bads sweeping 400s to sneak in as the 8th seed. Um, so the quarterfinal matchups are all set here. Some really heavy hitters here across the entire bracket. For today's feature, we are going to continue on watching the progress of the defending champions R.I.C.O Act here up against 3 seed Bomb Squad, who we did pretty extensive coverage of during the regular season because they had a pretty solid regular season, which we will see a little bit in the future. So as always, we're going to start off with a couple team profiles here. If you've watched the previous videos, we've already done a couple deep dives into R.I.C.O Act here, so not going to speak too much. But they did have a 6-4 record in the regular season. I've updated all of the matchup and deck counts with their wild card round. But it was basically exactly what you would expect from this team. They're primarily a Chaos Turbo team, and that's exactly what we saw them bring. I believe in the 6-person roster it was 4 Chaos Turbos, 1 Chaos Control, 1 Warrior. So basically, kind of exactly what the pie chart would have suggested that they would bring. Now, if you didn't watch the previous matches, I will say that the story for R.I.C.O this season, like I said, they are the defending champions. They have a very, very stacked roster in terms of talent, but they have suffered from a little bit of an inconsistency from some of the bigger names on the roster. They have been carried for the most of the season on the back of these 3 highlighted players, Moxie's, Ivan, and Ever, who are all in the MVP hunt. But they do, of course, have some very, very talented players in the roster that, if they can step it up now that we're in the playoffs, could help lead the team to victory. But key takeaway here, very Chaos Turbo heavy team. Makes prep a little bit easy, but with the talent on the team, right? The idea is basically, we're some of the best players in the format. Let me just play the best decks and outplay you. Not going to play these metagame. Maybe we'll tweak some ratios here and there, but not going to try and throw out some crazy niche lists and catch you off guard. We're just going to play solid GOAT format Yu-Gi-Oh and beat you that way. Bomb Squad here, really, really hot start to the season. They are our 3 seed. And they began the season 6-0. And if you want to see some of the wins from this, I did a lot of feature match coverage for several of the players on their roster at various points, so definitely check that out if you haven't already. However, they did kind of slip up a little bit towards the second half of the season, losing a bit of momentum. They did lose to some pretty big names, so you can't really fault them too much for that, in Bug Catchers and Masters of Oz, who are 2 of our top seeds in the playoffs. But definitely, expectations of this team were kind of tempered starting around, week 7, finishing the season with going 1-3 in the last 4 weeks. So looking to kind of right the ship here now that they're in the playoffs. It was good enough for them to at least secure a bye week. So hopefully that extra time was enough for them to kind of, get everything in line and prepped and give them some extra time to figure out exactly who they're going to play and what they're going to send out for this match against the defending champions. Now, if we take a look at their kind of metagame profile here, honestly somewhat similar to R.I.C.O in that they're a very Chaos Turbo heavy team, but they do play a good amount of Warriors as well. Notably, what they are missing is a big Chaos or GOAT control player. If you think of GOAT format as kind of like the top level tier 1 decks are like Turbo, Warrior, and Control. They are kind of missing one of those 3 pillars, which, if you're R.I.C.O Act and you have a few players like Moxie's and Ever who do like to play Warriors occasionally, or even most of the time, might make them a little bit more likely to bring those lists here to this matchup, because they know that they're probably not going to run into a control deck, which is generally a decent matchup against those more aggressive strategies. So taking a look at the individual players, so this is a very interesting team because they basically had the same starting 5-person roster for most of the regular season, which means that now that we're in the playoffs and they need to field a 6-person roster, they're going to have to reach down to one of these 2 players who did not play very regularly in the regular season and honestly didn't have too much success so far. Now, these are both great duelists, Dell and Shogun, very, very talented. So I have no doubt that they will be able to put up some performances here. However, it's going to be interesting for Bomb Squad to decide kind of where they're going to fill out that sixth spot on the roster, and if the lack of regular playing time in the regular season is going to come back to bite them with maybe some inconsistency in the play. But that is, of course, TBD. If we want to focus on kind of the top five players who make up the majority of the starting roster, they do have two MVP candidates. El Dulista Dex here with a 7-3 record in the regular season. Notably, they're kind of the only player who likes to switch up their decks. They play a little bit of Turbo, a little bit of Warrior, a little bit of Control, even. So honestly, if you're playing against R.I.C.O, that could be, and like I was mentioning, not a team that brings out a lot of control, but if we were to see it, I guess it would most likely be out of El Dulista here. And they also even play some Ritual Chaos. So if there was going to be kind of a wrench thrown into things and Bomb Squad was going to bring out a little bit more of a niche strategy, I would expect it to be probably from this player here. But also would not be surprised to just see them run out Turbo or Warrior. Can't really go wrong with either of those choices. Outside of El Dulista though, this is a team that is very, very kind of specialist focused, right? You can see not a lot of diversity amongst what decks individual players play here. Panico, very much a warrior player. Jay Harris and Michele mostly play Chaos Turbo. Same with the Dark Knight. Same with Dale, right? Um, so you kind of know based on the pairings who you're going to get once you're paired up against them, but they at least have a decent amount of diversity amongst the individual archetypes. So you can't just prep for a solely Chaos Turbo or anything like that. But really interested to see, lots of talented players here, just like R.I.C.O. A lot of these players got off to really, really hot starts to the season, fueling that 6-0 streak, but then struggled towards the back half. So, like I was saying, would love to see them kind of right the ship here, get a little bit more consistency, especially against a team that's going to punish you for every mistake you make in the defending champions R.I.C.O Act. So let's take a look at the round one pairings here, or wave one, I should say. So some pretty exciting matchups here for us all to enjoy. To answer the question of who Bomb Squad is going to field as the sixth player, they did choose to go with Dale here, who we did see played Chaos Turbo the 2 weeks of the regular season that they did play. So would not be surprised to see them trotting that one out here. We do have a top line MVP candidate matchup here between the Dark Knight and Ivan, both Chaos Turbo specialists. So if you are a Chaos Turbo mirror enjoyer, definitely would recommend looking at that match. But for the feature match today, I was going to actually take a look at Panico versus Purple Drunk here. Both players who had winning records in the regular season. A classic Warrior versus Chaos Turbo matchup is expected here, with both players only playing those specific decks respectively, and should be a pretty good one. So let's hop right into it. As always, I have randomized the placement of the players as to not spoil the outcome. But let's see what we're going with. So looks like Purple Drunk is going to win that RPS. And they are going to fire off with an Upstart Goblin, thinning the deck just a little bit. Double Upstart. Okay, so starting the game 2,000 life points down, but starting the game with a 38 card deck. So consistency versus life points, the age-old GOAT format question. And you know what? When these upstarts are drawing you into Pot of Greeds and stuff, you're going to take that 2,000 life point deficit to go up a card. So nice start here from Purple Drunk. Solid opening hand. Has a monster to set with a couple back row. And we'll see what Panico here can do now that they're a little bit in the hole. We're going to Insta-Trap Dust Shoot. Yeah, really happy if you're the Turbo player against a likely Warrior player and you're main decking Trap Dust Shoot, as most Turbo players do. When you find yourselves in the Warrior matchup, it's really nice to go first and fire with that Trap Dust Shoot, because this is probably going to be one of the only times this game that this Trap Dust Shoot will actually be live. So let's see what both players have in their hands here. Panico has two potential Dust Shoot targets in the hand, with Mystic Swordsman level 2 and a Blade Knight. So depending on what Purple Drunk's set monster is, will probably determine which one they go for. Mystic Swordsman, of course, good against every set monster in the game, whereas Blade Knight kind of gets walled out by Gravekeeper Spy. So if Spy is set, I would have to assume it's the Mystic Swordsman getting sent back. And now you know that the opponent has so they have Knock, Snatch, Rhoda, and Torrential. So lots of just powerful cards in hand. If you Dust Shoot back either one of these cards, they can just Rhoda it straight back. So not really the end of the world for Panico. Purple Drunk's hand is pretty pretty interesting. We've got Chaos Sorcerer with no light or dark engraved just yet, so it'll be a while until some Chaos will hit the field. But they do have Snatch, Steal, Sinister, and Breaker, which are all pretty solid cards. Sinister is just a good defensive option against Warrior because it's kind of hard for the deck to deal with it permanently without wasting a knock or something like that. And Snatch, of course, is great against decks that play these big monsters. So both players, pretty solid hands. We'll be interested to see how this one plays out. Purple Drunk, you probably just send back the Mystic Swordsman with the anticipation that it's just going to get roted straight back. Or Penigo can go Rota for Exiled Force, maybe. Yeah, send back the Mystic Swordsman. Sure. And then we will pass the turn. Or not pass turn, but pass priority. Panico is not going to fire off that Rota. We're just going to go for the Blade Knight. And we're going to knock anyway. Yeah, I mean, we kind of knew that was coming. So not going for any exiled whatever plays, just trying to get aggressive here since they had the knock in hand. And that hits a Gravekeeper Spy. So turn 1 Spy knocked for a Chaos Turbo player is pretty nice when you're playing Warrior because that is one of the strongest defensive cards in the deck, and now you know you will not have to worry about it for the rest of the time. And by the way, I guess as expected, as the Trap Dust Shoot revealed, this is the expected Chaos Turbo versus Warrior matchup. Would have been very surprised to see either player bring out a different deck, but always a fun matchup to watch, so I figured this would be a good feature match for this video. Blade Knight's going to get in for 1,600 points of damage, not setting anything to power it up to 2k just yet. Maybe playing around like Bluff Set Heavy Storm or something like that. I'm just going to set a couple back row pass. And I guess if you were going to do that already, you might as well just set them and get the extra 400 damage, but is what it is. Purple Drunk here, going to go normal summon this Breaker that we knew they had. With a likely Torrential Tribute set, this is pretty nice because you can just pop that and it's not like Panico is going to Torrential here and go minus, right? Thinking about it though. We are going to Torrential here. Okay, so saying, you know what? I'm going to go minus regardless, I guess. Interesting choice, right? Because the Breaker can go ahead and pop the Torrential, assuming it even correctly chooses which back row it is. But the Blade Knight is now at 2,000 life points, so it's not like Breaker's going to get the easy +1, because it can't then go crash into the Blade Knight and kill it, right? So not super necessary of a Torrential Tribute here, but Panico deciding to go for it. Maybe worried about Breaker sniping the other back row more so than actually caring about the Torrential here. Especially if that's like a set Rota or something, you probably want that to stick around so you still have some gas. But Breaker forcing this +1 for Purple Drunk is going to be pretty nice for our Chaos Turbo player. Off to a solid start early here in game 1 with the early Pot of Greed into another +1 thanks to that Breaker. And the Trap Dust Shoot resolving, giving them full knowledge of everything that Panico has going on. That is Purple Drunk's normal for the turn, so they're just going to pass here, but definitely has the potential to continue to apply pressure in the future. Panico here going to fire off that Rota that was bluff set. The reason why they do that is just so, Purple Drunk knew the entire hand of Panico, right? And the only card in hand that really made sense to set is the Torrential Tribute. So if Panico only set a single card, you would basically know exactly that that's the Torrential Tribute. So by setting 2, you at least make it unclear which one is the Torrential. You know that the other one is fake, right? But in terms of like mystical space typhoons and things like that, it makes it a little bit more likely. However, if your plan was that you were really worried about this Rota being killed by like an MST or like a Breaker, for example, maybe you should have just set the Torrential regardless and then not be forced to have to Torrential this Breaker to keep your Rota from being popped. Potential like slight misplay there, and it is just going to result in a nice +1 for Purple Drunk. So Panico falling slowly but surely behind here, but depending on the Rota target and what this back row is, they could make up for some of that. We could see like Rota for Donzalug here, try and get in and get a plus from that. That is what we see. And we know Purple Drunk has Sinister Serpent in hand, so it's not guaranteed that this Donzalug will get any value even if it does connect. But still, generally a solid play against Chaos Turbo. Donzalug is a very, very good card against them. And it's 1,400 damage as well. Purple Drunk does have the Ring of Destruction, sorry, to deal with the Dawn and protect their hand, though, not taking the risk. Of course, only a 25% chance that it would hit the Sinister, so ringing there, I think, is the smart play. Also, just a nice tempo play regardless. Panico going to set a back row pass. But Purple Drunk slowly kind of grinding this one out here so far. We're going to go set a monster, set a back row pass. Could be that Sinister that we know about, but of course we know Panico does not know. But they've had a couple turns since we revealed the hand, so could be something new as well. We're going to end phase MST, pop this back row, hitting a bluff set, Nobleman of Crossout. Generally a dead card, especially game 1 against Warrior. So honestly, trading it for an MST, you're probably pretty happy with. And we'll see. We'll see though if Panico can do anything. Now that the back row is clear, Mystic Swordsman be a good time to find that card. We're just gonna pass though. Okay, so nothing really going on. Does have light dark engrave, so they unlikely to just be sitting on chaos or something. But unfortunately, not committing anything to the board, and this will give Purple Drunk an opening to start. Kind of turning the corner and getting aggressive here. Seems like they stabilize relatively easy here in game 1. Gonna go fire off Thunder Dragon, getting Light Dark Engrave, and we know they have a Chaos Sorcerer in hand, so that suddenly becomes an option if you want to get a little bit aggressive here. Put that 2,300 points of attack on the board. We're just gonna set a back row pass though, so it makes me think that the set monster is probably that Sinister Serpent. Could also maybe be a Night Assailant if Purple Drunk is playing those. That's also something that wouldn't flip here. But opportunity for Purple Drunk to get aggressive. Not going to take it. Just going to thin the deck a little bit with the Thunder Dragon and set up for some potential future plays. A lot of reactive cards in hand, of course, with that Chaos Sorcerer and that Snatch Steal. So you're not really going to play those cards too early against Warrior, especially when they don't have any monsters to Snatch Steal, right? Panico here is going to go fire out Graceful Charity. That is a nice draw. So going to find some action here, most likely. This will resolve, and they discard a Kaiku and a Mirror Force. Okay. So saying they must have a better threat than this Kaiku here. Maybe they have. Maybe they found that Mystic Swordsman. Maybe they found a Blade Knight. Or they just have Rhoda to pick whatever they so choose. They're going to go for that Blade Knight here once again. Yeah, Blade Knight gets a lot better when there are no Gravekeeper Spies around, because that's like the one card that can wall it out. So we can go ahead, summon Blade Knight. You don't even need to power it up to the 2K to get over anything in the Chaos Turbo list. And we're just going to beat over whatever it is. Expecting it to be the Sinister Serpent. And it is. All right, so Purple Drunk showing the Sinister here, just using it to block some damage. And now Panico will have to commit multiple monsters to the board unless they find a knock to get through this Sinister. Otherwise, it'll just wall this Blade Knight indefinitely. Which is why Sinister is such a good card, or one of the reasons why it's such a good card in this matchup, is it forces the Warrior player to commit multiple monsters to the board, which turns off their Blade Knight. It's not something the deck is really built to do because they generally like to run a very low monster count. So it just makes things very awkward for the Warrior player sometimes if you can have it, stick around and be a nuisance for a while. Purple Drunk going to re-grab that in the standby phase. And we are going to fire off. Really thinking hard here. Snatch Shield is an option. Chaos Sorcerer is an option. Gonna choose to go for the Sork. Banish the BLS, or banish the Blade Knight here. I mean, I guess you could just attack over it for the damage. Might as well. It's already a Blade Knight Engrave. And Warrior's not playing multiple Chaos monsters, so the second light is kind of irrelevant. And yeah, get in for 700 points of damage. Take control over the board. Really nice stabilizing move here from Purple Drunk. Another +1 as well. And they can go set a monster, set a back row. Could, of course, be that Sinister Serpent. Or could be like Magician of Faith to ruin Panico's day. So looking really, really good here for Purple Drunk. They've been in the driver's seat pretty much all game. And now it looks like they've picked their spot to try and start asserting dominance and going for the win. Panico here has a Breaker, the Magical Warrior. Okay, going to try and pop that old set, which was a Trap Dust Shoot. I feel like it was pretty likely. That back row was... Oh, no, sorry, that's a new back row. Never mind. Got myself confused there. But popping, I guess, kind of a bluff set Trap Dust Shoot here. Like I said, really nice for Purple Drunk that they were able to get the turn 1 Dust Shoot resolution, because against Warrior, you're almost never going to find another opportunity past turn 1 to use one. And so, similar to the Knock eating a Mystical Space Typhoon, trading your Trap Dust Shoot for a Breaker activation is probably one of the best things you can hope for here. So, not exactly like card advantage per se, but you are trading favorably with some of these suboptimal cards pre-side against Warrior, which is just kind of virtually extending your lead here. So things continuing to look good for Purple Drunk. Gonna get Snatch Shield though. That is one of the most dynamic cards in the format. Really gonna open things up for Panico, assuming it can stick around. We're gonna go Breaker, attack likely the Sinister Serpent. clearing the way for the 2,300 points of damage from the Sorcerer. Okay, so Purple Drunk going to take a pretty big chunk of damage. Going to drop down to 2,700. We'll gain 1,000 off of the Snatch Seal, of course. But suddenly they're under a pretty big threat here. Summoning the Sork to go deal with that Blade Knight, but Panico did have the Snatch Seal in hand to answer that. And honestly, I feel like it was pretty likely that they had Snatch Seal because there was that turn, if you recall, a couple turns ago, where Panico had 2 cards in hand and didn't commit anything to the board. And like, sometimes when Warrior doesn't play a card, it'll mean that they have like a Chaos Monster in hand that they don't want to summon yet. Like, I mean, pretty much exactly BLS. But 2 in hand that they don't want to commit to the board. Like, what else could that be if not for Snatch Steal in a lot of cases? Which is probably why Purple Drunk was very hesitant last turn about summoning this Sork. But the Snatch is going to come through, deal with it, and maybe they're thinking, okay, we have enough. Even if my Sork does get Snatch Sealed, they have Snatch Shield of their own to take it right back if they so choose. So it's not like they're defenseless against this play. Gain 1,000 from the Snatch Shield, regrab Sinister Serpent. Are we just going to see Snatch on the Sork? That is exactly what we will see, all according to plan. Sork banish the Breaker. Keeping the Dark out of grave doesn't matter, but just playing around potential Sakuretsu armor or anything like that. Gonna set another monster there, another nice little plus there for Purple Drunk. A little bit of a scary scenario there with that Snatch Steal, but as long as theirs can stick around, they're in a really solid spot. Panico finds top deck Pot of Greed. They've had some pretty solid top decks this game, despite being in the hole for a while. But Pot will resolve, refill the handle a little bit. We find Mystic Swordsman, attack the set monster, probably just Sinister Serpent, which it is. And this is just going to be another card for Panico to lose to this Chaos Sorcerer, unfortunately. Sometimes forced to go for these plays. I mean, if this is the only card in your hand, you kind of have to do it regardless. Because if it is a Magician of Faith, it's just going to be absolutely devastating. But Purple Drunk in a really, really solid spot here. Once again, regrab that Sinister. Go ahead, banish. Yeah, might as well. Continue to play around the Saku, set another monster. You are making progress, slowly but surely. You're plussing a bunch here, and you just got to find a way eventually to start dealing some damage. Panico is all the way up to 9,900 life points, so it will be a while for Purple Drunk to win this, I feel like. Especially with no monsters in grave to go for the other heavy hitters in the list. But in terms of raw card advantage, you're in a pretty unassailable position, it feels like. And the fact that Panico is gaining life means less than you gaining life, right? Because you're the control deck in this matchup. So, like, I'd rather be at... If I'm going to be down 5,000 life points, roughly, I'd rather be at, 6k and you at 11k than me at 2k and you at 7k, right? So the status quo is also just kind of favoring Purple Drunk here. We got a Trap Dust Shoot here out of Warrior, though, so we'll get a little bit of a peek into what Purple Drunk's hand is. We see another dead Chaos Sorcerer, which kind of explains why they're not making any big aggressive pushes here. We got main deck Spirit Reaper, which is pretty interesting. I guess we did know that there are, a few Warrior players in the Bomb Squad roster, so maybe hedging against that a little bit here with the main deck Reaper. The known Double Thunder Dragon as well, and a Knock, which is dead. Yeah, so a pretty bricked hand here for Purple Drunk, honestly. I guess you probably Dust Shoot back the Spirit Reaper, just because it is something that does something, you know what I mean? But I can understand looking at the hand now why Purple Drunk really hasn't made anything happen, because a lot of their cards just kind of don't do anything against Warrior, especially when you have a very skimpy graveyard. Panico, I guess, let's see what they sent back. It's got to be the Reaper, right? We're going to send back the Sork. Okay. I guess Purple Drunk could technically turn the Sork on relatively easily. You could just discard a Thunder Dragon and then somehow get a Dark Engrave. I mean, you could even, like, summon Reaper at some point and then later on tribute summon over it with the second Thunder Dragon. So Panico maybe realizing that the only way they win is if this game goes a little bit longer, perhaps. And in the long game, Purple Drunk will be able to, set up for this Sork, even if they're not able to at this exact point in time. Or maybe they just have an easy way of dealing with the Spirit Reaper, / they just don't care. So that seems fine. Now that there are no monsters on the field, though, do we finally attack with this Chaos Sorcerer? Also, we know that this set is Sinister Serpent after the Dust Shoot resolved, of course. Going Could be an opportunity to go tribute summon for Thunder Dragon to get some more attack points on the board. Maybe you turn the Sork to defense, although that's a little bit risky in against a deck that runs Ninja Grandmaster. So maybe you just send it in with the Chaos Sorcerer here. Try and get a Dark Engrave. We're going to go for the Reaper play, though. I mean, might as well. Attacking for 300, rip out the card in hand, hitting the Ninja Grandmaster, and not playing around Mirror Force. I think that is... Oh, we've already seen Mirror Force. Never mind. Silly me. Yeah, so no reason to play around that. So this is an opportunity. You could have gone Tribute Summon for Thunder Dragon, but we're actually just going to go for the Spirit Reaper, rip out a card, play, get another plus, and with no Mirror Force to worry about. You know, it's like, okay. Oh, the Sakuretsu armor was live, though, so nice play there for the last couple of turns of Purple Drunk, going for the banish of these monsters instead of attacking, because, you know, Warrior does tend to main deck Sakuretsu armor. Trading it now, finally, but you have other, you know, plays, so it's not the end of the world. And passing turn up a bajillion cards, so even if the Saku got some value, you're still very much in the driver's seat here as Purple Drunk. Panico gonna set a back row pass. Now do we tribute someone for Thunder Dragon just to get the damage on the board? That seems like a decent play. Oh, didn't shuffle for the Dust Shoot. Not the end of the world. We're going to go, yeah, tribute for Thunder Dragon. Reaper not really going to do too much in a world where there's no cards in the opponent's hand, so just walling up defensively makes sense. And now you can start pumping in for 1600. Generally, I'm not a fan of tribute summoning for Thunder Dragon against Warrior, but when you have no plays really available to you, might as well just get the 1600 attack on the board and start making some progress. Then we'll set a back row pass. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's kind of garbage time, right? Playing into Dust Shoot by grabbing that Sinister. But if one of Panico's cards is Trap Dust Shoot, you're really happy, because then that kind of guarantees more Thunder Dragon damage. When we've got Sangan as a nice, safe addition to the damage, to the clock here, that's a pretty nice draw. So upping the clock from 1600 a turn to 2600 a turn. And yeah, it took a while to get here, but Panico seems to have finally kind of unbricked their hand for the most part, got some stuff on board, and now they're cruising to a victory. Top deck Kaiku does get board control, but we'll see if this can push through Purple Drunk's back row. Gonna go try and kill this Thunder Dragon. Just gonna Mirror Force it. Sure. Panico could go for a Solemn Judgment. They will. Okay. So that's going to cost them 2,700 life points, but it will ensure this Kaiku gets through. It will keep a Dark out of the grave here for Purple Drunk as well, which could be useful. And the Kaiku is kind of dominating the board at this point in time. So nice little win there for Panico, just getting back some board supremacy, turning off some chaos plays, stuff like that. But you know, I still expect Purple Drunk to be able to deal with this relatively easily. Tsukuyomi is a perfect way of doing that. Flip that Kaiku face down and then attack right over it. Or we're just going to knock it. Yeah, I guess we knew Purple Drunk had the knock in hand. So you might as well go for the extra damage, because when else are you going to use that knock, right? Especially with the Sinister in hand, it's not like you need to keep it for discard fodder for like a Regeki break or something. So let's just convert knock to some damage here. That seems like a good use of the card. Get in for 2,100. And now you get to pass with lethal on board and in hand. And it took a while to get there, but I think Purple Drunk is going to be able to close this one out. Heavy Storm, pop the bluff, set Trap Dust Shoot, set a monster pass. All right, well, do you regret not having your knock now? Just going to go Sook on the Reaper, attack into the set. It is a DD Warrior Lady. Okay, so that is going to wall out Purple Drunk for a little bit here. So maybe regretting not holding the knock here, but I mean, I can't really fault him for it, to be perfectly honest. But they will not be able to close out the game immediately. Just going to turtle up here, saying into defense. And DD Warrior Lady doing a good job controlling the board, at least for the time being. Set a back row pass. Trap Dust Shoot. Pretty nice. Keeping this one going. So now you can rip out any card that could potentially answer you. Or you send back the Magician of Faith, because that would be pretty scary, grabbing a Pot of Greed. And yeah, if you send back the Faith, you know for sure that Purple Drunk, with a very monster-heavy hand, not going to have anything to get over this DD Warrior Lady for the time being. So, not bad. Faith gets sent back. Just trying to draw this one out. Try and find like a BLS or something. Make things interesting. Setting probably the Dekoichi if I had to guess. Sure. See, yeah, flip up Dekoichi, dig for something to out this DD Warrior Lady. Tsukiyomi on the Dekoichi is nice regardless, I guess, just to keep getting some card advantage there. Yeah, so we're taking the long way around, but we'll get there eventually, guys. Set a back row pass. Heavy Storm, clear out everything. Gonna Solemn the Heavy Storm, basically free, but keeping around this other back row. Could be another Solemn, maybe. Could be a Sakuretsu Armor. Flip summon to Koichi, draw a card. Turtle up, sure. Just trying to find an out here. Raigeki Break, a bigger monster. Tsukiyomi on the Dekoichi, sure. Raigeki Break the DD Warrior Lady, attack for game. Finally finding it out there. And that is going to be game one. Not exactly short and sweet, but Purple Trunk is going to take down game one here against Panico. We will go to game two here. Panico on Warrior will be able to go first, which is very, very important in this matchup. And we'll get to see what both players kind of have in store side deck wise, because there are a lot of different strategies floating out there for both lists. Warriors, do you want to bring in flips or not, is kind of a big one. Do you want to bring in like specific outs to Zombiras? How much back row hate do you want to bring in? For Chaos Turbo players, it's okay, are we smoke screening into Chaos Control, bringing like Scapegoat, Metamorphosis, Creature Swap stuff? Or are we playing the traditional Solemn Judgment, Zombira, Sakuretsu Armor sort of plan? So lots of options available to both players. This is, of course, one of the most common matchups in GOAT format, so no surprise that many different avenues have been tested. But excited to see what both players decided to bring here for this GOAT format War League playoff matchup. Panico here, going to lead out with a Kaiku with a back row pass. Of course, a very good card against Chaos decks in all flavors. Purple Drunk here has a Zombira. Okay, so they seem to be on the old school plan for the most part. Zombira will go attack over Kaiku, but it will get eaten by the Sakuretsu Armor, which is a very good card against this specific side deck strategy out of Turbo. Keep the Kaiku around, and it now has a targeted banish as well to get even extra value. So nice start here from our Warrior player. Purple Drink just going to set a back row pass. But this Kaiku can start doing a lot of damage, both literally to the life points, but also to the graveyard and things like that. Going to get in for 18. Banish that Zombira. Really good start here for Panico so far. Set a monster as well, and like I was saying, post side, you really have to be worried about what Warriors faced on monsters could be, because they could be bringing in Morphing Jars, they could be bringing in Magician of Face, they could be bringing in Gravekeeper Spies, or it could just be like a Donzalug or a DD Warrior Lady or something, but lots of potential options. That makes it very, very difficult for other decks to kind of deal with, because you don't really ever know exactly what you're about to get hit with. Purple Drunk here is going to set a monster, set a back row pass. We'll see if this was a real flip monster. It was a Gravekeeper Spy, so Panico is on at least the post side Gravekeeper Spy strategy. Going to summon out the second copy in defense. Not too bad. We're going to go Tribute for Mobius, another common but not ubiquitous side deck option against Chaos Turbo. Going to be able to pop both of these back row, which is going to be really nice. Turbo does play a lot of chainables, but they do play a lot of chainables generally pre-side. However, post-side, when you're bringing your Sakuretsus and stuff, it makes stuff like Mobius and Shingenhu a lot better, which is why you see them post-side, because you can hit the battle traps and things like that. Purple Drunk here, though, does have double chainables, though. They got a Jar of Greed and a Ring of Destruction, with a lot of decent targets, honestly, depending on what else is in their hand. But the Mobius is not going to get too much value here. We're just going to ring the Mobius, remove it from the board, keeping the Kaiku around. But that's going to be actually a nice little plus there, I think, for Purple Drunk, thanks to the Jar and the Ring and all that good stuff. Knock is going to come through here, though, on the set monster, hitting Purple Drunk Spy. So really nice play here out of Panico, able to resolve their Spy before knocking the opponents. So they got their value, and now Purple Drunk will be spyless for the rest of the game, which is pretty nice. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so Purple Drunk here, I believe, yeah, we saw last game that they are on triple spy, so this is adding insult to injury. Pretty clear that they have the third spy in hand, most likely, which without any other Gravekeeper targets in the deck is not that strong. But it is at least a decent defensive wall. Easier to deal with, of course, than two spies. This Kaiku will be able to beat in for 1800 once again, though, and Purple Trunk suddenly finds himself at like 2000 life points. Yeah, they've already taken a Kaiku hit. They've had to ring a Mobius. It's just a lot of like incremental damage coming through, and suddenly Panico is passing with lethal on board very, very quickly here in game two. Purple Trunk does find the Tribe Infecting Virus. This is very valuable into an empty back row with your opponent's whole board being spellcasters. Really nice card to find in this exact scenario. Has that third spy as expected, which makes good discard fodder for a Tribe Infecting Virus. Nice little cash in there, clearing the way for this tribe to beat in for 16 as well. And just like that, Purple Drunk has kind of turned this one around, facing lethal on board. But Tribe, good card, gonna just clear everything out for them. And with a couple or several back row to protect it as well. So Purple Drunk all in on the Tribe plan here right now. We'll see if Panico can turn this one around. Ninja Grandmaster is just a nice way to assert control over the board. And let's see, will that connect over the Tribe? We're going to Solemn the Ninja Grandmaster. So yeah, as I said, Purple Trunk clearly all in on this Tribe play, so Solemning an out to the Tribe, even if it's a relatively easily found one, is kind of forced here. Because if the Tribe is gone, what else are you doing? You know what I mean? And Panico just going to set a back row pass. That'll get hit with MST. So Purple Trunk here, making Chaos Turbo look a little bit like Warrior here, sticking a threat, protecting it with back row removal and Solemn Judgments to try and kind of out-tempo the opponent. Hitting a bluff set reinforcement of the army. Get in for 16, and this is a real clock at this point in time. Another set monster alongside it. Nothing crazy and grave to worry about if you're Panico. But this tribe is doing a lot of work. Let's see, though. We got Mystic Swordsman to deal with the set. And we're going to Snatch Steal the Tribe. Oh, is this just game? We can go Mystic Swordsman, kill the set monster, Tribe for game. And does Purple Drunk have the back row? They do not. Wow, okay, so Panico. Wow, crazy back and forth game there. Really, really quick one, thanks to the big collateral damage from the ring, lots of Solemn Judgments being used, things like that. But in the end, Snatch Steal, great card in these very simplified board states. And Panico had it at the very last second to push through this lethal amount of damage right when it looked like Purple Drunk might have been stabilizing. So really well played there by Panico, and this will force a game three, a very, very consequential game three, now that we are in the quarterfinals of the playoffs here. Purple Trunk will be able to go first, which is very important. We did see that they brought in the Zombiros post side, so expecting to see some of that. Maybe that gives a little bit of intel for Panico to decide how they want to tweak their post side strategy as well. That's one of the really interesting things out of this matchup is like post game one, you kind of have to guess what the opponent is on and tweak your side deck accordingly, right? But then once you get a little bit of intel about what they are planning on going for with respect to the strategy in this matchup, then you can kind of counter side for that, and then it's like a very will they, won't they, who's keeping in knocks, who's bringing in flips, that sort of stuff. And it makes it really, really difficult to play these kind of accurately because there could be so many different cards that you have to account for at any given point in time. Purple Trunk here opening. Thunder Dragon, though, is a pretty nice start. With just 3 back row pass, so no monsters here just yet. Gotta assume either we've got a bunch of chainables or one of these is a Solemn Judgment. Panico here gets to main phase 1. Gonna slam down the Blade Knight and just get in for 16. Why not? Purple Drunk will take that one on the chin. And first blood to Panico here in game 3. Has a nice big threat with this Blade Knight. See if Purple Drunk can do anything. Got Upstart Goblin. Try and dig for an out. Into Jar of Greed. So yeah, really thinning the deck here. Into Graceful Charity. That is pretty nice with those 2 Thunder Dragons in hand. So honestly, if you're Panico and you have Solemn Judgment, pretty tempting Solemn here to prevent, if Turbo can cash in their Thunder Dragons this early, it's pretty good for them, right? This will resolve, though. Okay. Discard both Thunder Dragons, as expected. And then we got Tsukuyomi, another absolute house of a card against Warrior, especially this early on, to go deal with that set monster. Panico, though, is going to let that one go through. If you had an out to either the Graceful or the Tsukuyomi, you'd probably use them, right? Unless we're saving our back row for a rainy day, of course. Adding another back row there, and Purple Drunk is suddenly off to a pretty nice lead here, having resolved TD plus Graceful, as well as plussed off that Tsukuyomi. Still at a relatively healthy life total as well, so this is going to be a big uphill battle here for Panico in Game 3. And phase Dust Tornado on the new back row, hitting a Ring of Destruction. Sure, totally fine. Keep things a little bit more simplified. We're going to go DD Warrior Lady. That is at least a Tsukuyomi proof threat, so that is not too bad. Nice little 1500 damage a turn. Purple Drunk. And start a battle phase is going to fire Scapegoat. Okay, so we are on the Chaos Control smokescreen plan here, folks. Scapegoat coming in post side against Warrior. Going to fill up the board with those goat tokens and make Warrior's life pretty difficult. Probably, or Panico thinking here about probably Solemning this. Man, if they. Yeah, could have Solemn that Graceful, right? I mean, you don't automatically Solemn Graceful Charities, but I feel like it was probably a decent time to do that. Yeah, saying very difficult choice here. Do we let these goats resolve and just really bog down everything at the cost of 4,500 life points? And we are going to Solemn the Scapegoat. Okay, so investing 4,500 life points here to accelerate the game state, keep the board free of those pesky little goat tokens, and this DD Warrior Lady will be able to beat in for 1,500 most likely. Yeah, okay, so investing a lot, but is making progress thanks to that. Will it be enough, though, or will Purple Drunk be able to stabilize? Gonna draw for turn, gonna Jar of Greed here, really churning through this deck so fast. I mean, we got Thunder Dragon, Graceful, Double Jar, Upstart. We were just seeing so many cards. I mean, this is what Turbo is built to do, though, right? Set monster, set a couple back row pass, trying to wall out this DD Warrior Lady. And notably, the threat of Tsukuyomi in hand makes it really difficult for Panico to know like when it's safe to kind of do more, right? And go wide with this board. Because you know that most of your non DD Warrior Lady monsters in the deck are just going to die to Tsukuyomi, right? Panico has the knock here on a great. So, third game in a row, Purple Drunk's Gravekeeper Spies gets knocked. Has not been able, and if that is not just a perfect summation of the current metagame of Warrior versus Chaos Turbo, where Warrior in general has just been very, very successful, Purple Drunk has been unable to resolve a single Gravekeeper Spy throughout 3 different games this match. Gonna banish them all from their deck here, hitting Panico's 2 as well. Oh, and Purple Drunk here, once again, basically revealing that they have the third spy in hand because they only banish one. Max value knock here for Panico, really. You get to hit the spy and also strand the third, lone copy in Purple Drunk's hand. And that is another nice little win there. Gonna force through some more damage as well. Purple Drunk forced to use the Mirror Force on a DD Warrior Lady that had already gotten a good amount of value. So another small win here for Panico. Still behind in cards, of course, thanks to all the crazy stuff that Purple Drunk was able to do earlier, but finding at least these little marginal wins, which will help keep them in the game here. Purple Drunk just going to set a monster pass. Magician of Faith is definitely a threat here with the Graceful Engrave and the Spy in hand as discard fodder. Panico is going to go with the Blade Knight, though. This will negate the flip effect. Oh, but it is the third spy. Okay, so Purple Drunk gonna look cute there, just using it as a wall here, coaxing Panico into summoning a monster that's not gonna really do anything, and actually getting some value out of this third spy. How will we, stalemate on the board here, of course. We're just gonna set a monster pass, really try and gum up the works here, extend this game. Exactly what, at this point you're playing Chaos Control, wants to do against Warrior. Panico gonna go attack the set monster, the new one. It is a Spirit Reaper, yeah. So basically, I know Spirit Reaper is kind of it's not a new tech, but it is something a lot of players are exploring to help Turbo in the Warrior matchup. And oftentimes it just kind of looks like another copy of Gravekeeper Spy, right? Because it just doesn't die in combat to anything. So it's really nice to just wall out these aggressive decks, especially when you've already maxed out the number of spy copies you can play. It's basically like spy copy number 4, right? Purple Drunk. We're gonna go Raigeki Break, discarding the Mystic Tomato. Okay, yeah. So this is the new-ish side deck strategy against Warrior decks that people have been playing with. You play Tomato, you side into Chaos Control, but you also play like Tomato plus Reaper to basically tutor out, your fourth copy of Spy essentially, and really make it hard for the warrior player to attack profitably at any point. This is going to be a little 2-for-1 here, but Purple Drunk does have the cards to spare. We're going to Raigeki Break, discard the Tomato, pop the Blade Knight, and we're going to Heavy Storm away the back row, hitting a Mirror Force. Are we, notably, Raigeki Break, discarding Tomato, got a Dark Engrave, so are we going to go summon BLS or Sork for game with all of this attack on the board? Yeah, Sork here, and that's not game, but it will be if they have another monster. Yeah, oh yeah, Tsukiyomi was in hand, yeah. So, there you have it. This is going to be game. So, Purple Drunk here, piloting this newish strategy, the Chaos Control Smokescreen, featuring Mystic Tomato Spirit Reaper, to a victory here against one of the strongest warrior players in the GOAT format, War League. So maybe a good omen for the other players that are playing the strategy. Seems to have worked here quite nicely. Really did a good job gumming up the works here in game 3, making it hard for Warrior to create any offense. Of course, Purple Drunk did really just get off to a really solid start with like Graceful plus TD and the early Sook plus as well. So maybe the exact cards they had didn't really matter too much, and just the fact that they were up a bunch of cards right off the bat. But this will be a dub in the R.I.C.O Act column here to help them on their quest to defend their title here in Season 6. So Panico will fall Purple Drunk, assuming someone from Bomb Squad won a match, will move on to future waves to try and eliminate the remaining members of Bomb Squad. So we'll actually have that here for you, the Wave 1 results. And it looks like Bomb Squad here is actually off to a pretty nice lead. So Purple Drunk was able to seal the deal, as well as Chaos Control Specialist Geisty was able to take down top Bomb Squad player El Dulista. But the rest of R.I.C.O Act was unable to match their prowess there. So all of basically the hard carries for the team dropping after Wave 1. Ivan, Ever, and Moxie's, as well as Don't Copy, taking the L here. And now all of the hard carries from R.I.C.O have been eliminated. Of course, Geisty and Purple Drunk are two very, very respectable duelists in their own right, with lots of tournament success between the both of them. But they have not had the most consistent season so far. But now they're going to find themselves in a position where it's all on these two to fend off their 4 remaining members of Bomb Squad. And, what were the keys to victory that I talked about before? R.I.C.O needs to have either they need to just get straight up hard carried by, their top dogs, or some of the more inconsistent players are going to have to step up. What was the issue with Bomb Squad? They needed the sixth man on the roster, the final hole that they needed to fill. They needed to step up and show that the team is deeper than just the big 5, right? And Dale here able to get the win against a very, very solid player with Ever, who we featured several times on this channel in the past. So far, things looking good here for Bomb Squad, not just because they have 4 players remaining to R.I.C.O Acts 2, but also the players that are performing versus the players that aren't definitely seems to favor Bomb Squad so far. R.I.C.O, of course, not out of the game just yet. They still have 2 very solid players carrying the flag for them into Wave 2, but definitely check in for future matches to see how this one and the rest of the playoffs will pan out. Hope you guys enjoyed this match and these team profiles and all that good stuff. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I will catch you all next time.